Thank you very much, Mario. Good evening to everyone. And Thank you for having me today in this webinar. So I just wanted to make sure that the sound is okay and that you can hear me properly.
Yes, everything perfect.
Okay, great. And can you see my screen as well?
Yes.
All right. So it's really a pleasure for me to address the Moho audience today. And I'm going to jump right away into giving a quick summary of what we are going to discuss. So why Moho at first? Because usually people, when they want to make this kind of animation, they go for frame by frame and traditional animation. But my problem is like I don't really like to draw like with pen and paper or in tablet. I have a tablet, but I'm barely using it, only to sketch sometimes or draft some stuffs, but not for pure animation. I've always wanted to create anime because I love it, and Moho is easy to learn and it's very powerful. When I started, just like as a short story, when I started learning Moho, it was there was not so many tutorials, and I stuck with a user manual to focus on the main features of the software, and that's how I learned how to use the software, how to use it. What do I use Moho for today? I make NFT promo trailers, video game trailers, and as well as animation tutorials. The goal of this webinar today is to help viewers, the audience, to get a better understanding of the workflow that I follow to create anime sequences using Moho. What's important for me when creating such kind of sequence is camera angle for the like cinematographic style, not only a static camera or a character facing the camera, and also what is important is the character pose. So how are we going to do that today? So here, this simple graphics is just showing you that what we are going to dive into some of my Moho files from static characters to action scenes. So the goal is to see like the curve, the progression curve, and to see that when you start, you don't have to make like complicated things right away. You can start with simple things, and those simple principles will help you to achieve complex animations without having to draw them. But you need to create an anime scene in Moho. Actually, you need two things. You need a storyboard or an animatic or key poses. Those can be drawn in another software if you want, on pen and paper if you want, or directly with Moho. I will show you a file where I drew the storyboard and the key poses with Moho using my mouse, and it was enough for me to start animating using Moho. Something else that I want to address is about what you need when you create an anime scene is that you need to visualize your scene first, and you need to visualize your scene, and everything that you're going to use actually depends on where you are going. So it doesn't matter how long you spend. The most important is the result. And some of the most important principle that I always apply is the key pose principle that we discussed earlier. Regarding the rig, I designed a rig for each specific scene because otherwise it's going to be very difficult and very time consuming to animate a scene. It's going to be more time consuming than it is already. So that's why I use the principle of one scene is one rig. And for the last part, it's the point animation, a lot of point animation. So let's go right into the first file. So this one is actually a scene, very simple scene. I just activate the timeline to see the different keys. There are two characters, and it's very basic, like what we see here. Those characters were rigged in Moho. So what we see here is that in terms of animation, there is only the characters are looking at themselves, at each other, and they are waving their hand at their screen. So this is the only movement that we have in that scene. As I clicked on the character earlier, so you can see that the rig here is very basic. It's just like a very basic skeleton. Didn't even draw below the shirt because it's not showing on screen. And here everything is very simple. It's even the basic like binding. And here it's not even like completely. It's not even flawless. It's just basic, but with the enough patience. This is mostly, I mentioned that especially for people who just like started using Moho. If you're at the beginning of your learning curve, you can already make some scenes that can be used to tell a story. So these characters are very basic, and there is not even any point animation. You can see that, for example, his arm here, it's not flawless. You can see some flaws here that you can fix with some point animation. So the bones animation and the bones animation first, and then the point animation after. So if I took the time to fix his arm animation with point animation, it will actually look better than what we actually have in the initial animation. So actually, it doesn't look. It looks even worse. But actually, I wanted to show you that point animation. It's not only for smart bones. It's also important to use it when you make your character animation. So here I'm just doing it quickly, but here we can see, okay, it doesn't matter, but okay, it's fine. Also the rigging, it uses flexi binding, something that we will see later, but flexi binding is not something that I really recommend when doing what I do. So this is for the first file, and the other character, of course, same, very basic rigging, and no, I don't even have point animation. I have only point animation for the look here because they are turning their head. Usually, you will see a lot of tutorials explaining to you how to make a head turn, which is very nice. But here, since the scene is only one movement, you should. I would not use. I will not spend time creating a smart bone I will animate directly the movement into the main channel. So that's what I wanted to say for this, and also for the character modeling, it's actually very basic. Actually, very basic vector characters. Something that I recommend is to always use styles. If I show the style panel, I always use styles, and that is something that I really recommend. I will show you later why it's something that is very important. Okay, so let's go into another one. So this one is just an arm movement. So let's move up to something a little bit more complicated. So we have this character here. I will just disable the background here. So this character has a walking animation. I hope that it's showing properly on the screen share. So I'm moving it slowly, but that girl has more features actually. So we can see that the face is moving left and right. So of course some point animation, and the arms are moving frontward and backward. So here it's a basic bone animation, and for the hair, something very also common is bone animation. You can also use the wind feature that will help you to simulate wind. But in that part, I think I went for the for a manual animation of the hair. It's just a way for me to keep control on the movement. And something that is specific and new compared to the previous one is that the body use a mesh. There is a mesh for the body because in order to follow the movement, the body need to slightly turn. So I just used a mesh for that. It's since the movement is very basic, it will avoid like having to animate the points, because if I would go to animate the points, you can see that they are in different layers, and there are so many points to animate. So that's the advantage of having the mesh in Moho, in the latest version of Moho, because it will allow you to quickly move a vector layer, some parts of the vector layer. And for the head, I didn't use the mesh because I wanted to keep control over the eyes. I will just check if I have, yes, I have an action, I think. Yes, for this, I have created a smart bone. Why? It's simply because I follow the rule that since the blink is repeated and it's just the same movement throughout the animation, so I just make a smart bone. So it's easier, and it avoids to having to animate the eyes several times during the main channel. So in that case, yes, smart bone it's useful. So depending depending on the case, we can already see the difference between the two animations. The first one, we only had one head movement, and so there is no need for smart bone. But for this one, we have a repeated movement, and this is the case where we will go for smart bone. So that's it for that file. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, here, sorry, I'm gonna remove those. Here, it's like the previous one. There is there is body movement, but here we can see that the camera angle, it's not the same anymore. And the character starts off screen and arrives on screen. The specificity of that one compared to the other one is that the character is the camera angle is not like in front of the character but above him, so it will change in terms of it will affect things in terms of perspective and also in terms of movement, because if I will just disable everything else to see only the character and also only the bones, we can see that the bone perspective and the bone size is here is like it's not really following the regular body proportion of a character facing the camera. So here the bones are actually following the camera perspective, and they are consequently animated. So here it's actually a simple rig with nothing fancy, and it's only bone movements. Maybe there are some, I don't remember if there are some point animation here, but I think there is a little bit. Let me check just the face to see if there are. Yes, there are some point animation just to make some face movement, and also like so that the head is not always static. So not too much to say about that one, except in terms of camera angle. Let's jump to this one that you have seen on my YouTube channel. It's the opportunity. I will not spend too much time on this one, but it's the opportunity to mention a few things, like for example, sometimes for some parts I use the mesh, for example, for the face. I don't remember where it is. I don't remember where I put here the face mesh. So here there is a face mesh, but the thing is that for the let's say for the shirt, for example, there is no face, there is no mesh. There are several layers for the shirt, but there is no mesh. Why? It's because actually the mesh movement, the shirt movement needed to be like not uniform. Like for example, if I take the face, for example, based on the animation that we have, it's very easy to manipulate with mesh because the character is always facing the camera, and is always facing the camera. So the animation that we make on the eye is not complex. It's just like, you know, we can move everything together in a very subtle way, and it's okay. But for the shirt, the problem is, like for example, the laces here, they need to move independently, and also I wanted to keep control on the small details here. When they are moving, it's actually very subtle, but also the shades here are moving differently compared to the shirt. So that's why I didn't go for a mesh here. And the laces, if I don't make a mesh that includes the laces and the highlights, there is no need, because it means that I'm going to animate all of them independently. So no need for a mesh. And if you have downloaded this file on the website, you can see that I went for the Vitruvian bones. So actually, I could have gone for a only one arm that would move like this from back to front and animate the points. But because of the animation itself, it was actually easier to use a Vitruvian bone, because when the arm move frontwards and backwards, it's actually supposed to be a fast movement. So it's actually, I found it better to like uh, almost skip that movement and directly switch to a Vitruvian bone, so that I can focus on animating the part where the arm is behind him, and the other part when the arm is in front, and the rest, since there is a Vitruvian bone, it's okay if even if the transition is not visible because of the Vitruvian switch. So that arm is actually that rig is actually not that complicated. What I like about it is that it combines several techniques, several animation techniques, and several animation features in Moho. So I think it's a good fit for someone who wants to see the different features in action within the same rig. Because there is the mesh, there is a Vitruvian bone, there is wind for the hair. The hair, I didn't use wind. It's only bone dynamics, because I didn't want to spend that much time animating them, and that's why I used the bone dynamics for them, and it was perfectly fine. All you need to do is like you need to spend time to find the proper setting according to your needs, but besides that, it's fine. So thank you to everyone who downloaded this file, and I hope that it helps you. To better understand some concepts, especially if you are beginning if you are a beginner into using Moho. So in this one, the character is facing the camera. So why I wanted to talk about it, it's because we can see that the movement implies some perspective and movement towards the camera, because this is something that some people have noticed in Moho. Sorry, I'm just gonna drink water. Some people have noticed in Moho that since it's not a 3D software, it's sometimes difficult to simulate the z-axis. Yes, the character is locked. So it's sometimes difficult to simulate the z-axis, because the bones can only move on the x and y axis. There is no z-axis for the bones, so you need to like trick the eyes with the point animation. So that's why a lot of point animation already in this file. If you have downloaded it, you have noticed that I use markers. Sorry, I'm just going to reactivate the camera immunity here in the timeline. So I use the marker, and it reminds me that I completely forgot to mention about the storyboard part, of course, for all the files. So for the first ones, I didn't use, because those are very basic animation. I'm just going back quickly to the other files. But for starting with this one, there was a storyboard sketch needed. So as you can see it here. So I started with some sketching, and after there was a like a breakdown of the different poses. It's only the main poses. So what I do is that you just set those poses on the, I use markers here. I don't know if I will try to zoom. Okay, so here they are displayed in yellow. So for each marker, it's a pose. and the rest are just transition between poses. So the skeleton is just transitioning through from one pose to another. Same here. Same here. Don't, I will just, oops, sorry. Here you have probably seen that I'm using some files that I downloaded on the internet. I don't know why it's not showing. Maybe of the display quality. No, I don't understand why they are not, why the pictures are not showing here. Maybe because something is hidden. But anyway, it's okay. You can see that I used this file that I downloaded on the internet. You can find some files like that. I will just give you a tip is that if you are looking for a specific file, you just type this word Genga on the internet. Like for example, you just type attack on Titan Genga, and you will find this kind of files. You can search for them on Pinterest and on Google. So for official anime, you can find a lot of them, and it's very good for practicing because when you practice, you learn the techniques and then you apply them to your own. So here I'm just gonna jump to the next one here. So that one, it's like similar to the previous one. He's running towards the camera, but he's not being static. So here, and it's not a repetitive movement, like only the legs are doing a repetitive movement, but not the rest of the body. So in that case, same technique. You start with I started like this is like something that I sketched using my mouse on Moho. So quick storyboard of the character, showing the character design as reference, and the two main poses. And then for the other poses, I went for the famous mannequin that you have on Clip Studio, the 3D model, because I was very short on time when I made that one, and that's why I was looking for a solution to quickly pose a character with a camera angle, and then with the help of those two elements and the character design, I started working on the animation. So basically here, same character being modeled using styles. The shades are just masking, and then the rig, it's just one rig. It's just one rig. Sorry, using the Vitruvian bones for the arms. So I have this set of arms here. Sorry, here this set of arm. So this is one group here, one group here, and then for example this group here, we can see that it's switching to another group, to another set here. So we are going here with the Vitruvian bones. We are going to switching to the front, to the arm position frontward. So and then when the characters slice at the screen, the arm here is going and is switching again to the other set of bones from the same Vitruvian group. So here backward and frontward, and the transition, because it's fast, we don't need to show everything, and it's just a switch between those two arms, and of course some point animation, but not too much, only some basic point animation. most of the point animation was on the character face, because the character is because the face is turning a little bit, and so it needed some point animation. I don't even know if I have bones for the hair, but anyway, the other arm is just the same, Vitruvian bones, but arm going backward, and then when it's slicing, it's the other set. So there is a switch here, but it's a fast movement, so it's almost like not visible. So I'm just playing it, but I don't know if it's like I think it might be choppy when because of the live stream. I don't know. Next, we go to this one also. This scene was part of a video that I uploaded on the channel. So this one, same technique again. I use some keyframes that were drawn separately, and based on that, you go for the character modeling using styles and animation. I just wanted to talk about styles. I don't have them here, but the importance of working with styles, it's something that a recurring question, and this is something that I really recommend to, especially to new users. Always take the habit to work with styles, because if you don't work with them, it might be very you might waste a lot of time later, especially if you need to update, for example, if you need to update a little bit, like the clothes, the color of the clothes. If I want to change it to blue, so everyone knows about that. But something that is very interesting is this is very like advanced, but it's okay. Anyone can apply that, especially if you work, for example, with a team and someone who is doing the composition into After Effects. You will usually have to export the character main colors separately from the shades. So the shades and the main colors will have to be exported separately for the composition. This depend on the pipeline in which you go, but the problem is that if you just try to export the character colors, it's very easy because you just remove the shades and that's it. But the problem will come when you want to export the shades. Why? It's because actually the shades here, they use mask layers. So for example, if I take the skin and I just decrease the opacity, the problem is that I set the opacity to 0, but the problem is that the visibility of the shade relies on the skin visibility. So if you decrease the visibility of the skin, the shade will not be visible anymore in your exportation. And also, you cannot, if you are using mask, you cannot export the mask. You cannot export the shade layer separately, because the visibility of the shade relies on the skin. And if you disable the masking, you will have odd results, such as, for example, this kind of things. Like here, you can see that if I disable the mask, here, boom, you have some shape visible outside. So this is kind of problematic. So that's where styles help us. What you can do in that case is that you can first you export all your styles using the feature that was designed for that. Export styles. So it's just to like have a backup of your styles, and then all your styles what you can do is that you can just change their color to a very like to this kind of color. So so this will help the compositor that comes after you in the pipeline to 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 compose the scene properly. So here I'm not gonna do everything, but it's just to show you that I will only keep the shades in their original color and set the opacity. And then what the compositor will be able to do is that it will be able to import your scene and remove the green with a chroma key. For example, in After Effects or in Adobe Premiere, we're not gonna discuss further about those, but this is a technique that can be used, and it's a way to like implement your Moho workflow into a pipeline with users from different softwares. So yes, and then last scene is something that I've created especially for this webinar here. So this animation, I created it for this webinar, and I wanted to create it because I wanted to like show something that is really action, and it's sorry because I'm playing it in the player, so it's not very it's very choppy. But if I show it like frame by frame, we can see that the character, it's actually a complex animation because the character is moving, everything is moving, and the character is not, his legs are not visible at first, and then they're visible. The character is going far from the camera, then there is a zoom in, the character, there is different angles. We can see the back. The back was not visible at the beginning. So you need to think about that part when you animate the scene, and especially when you create it. And the character is the character body is turning from back to front, and then the arm is getting in front of the camera and is moving away, and there is this effect. So same here. That's what I wanted to show. That's how I wanted to show that actually you can go very far when you create some scenes in Moho. And of course, this scene, I downloaded the storyboard. I mean, like the key poses. I downloaded the key poses on the internet, and I just analyzed them, what will be necessary, and then created the rig. So always the same styles, create the styles first, and then try to create the character. Something that I wanted to mention is that when you model the character, always go with simple shapes. Like for example, for the hair, it's just this kind of things. So to when you use simple shapes, it's also something that I wanted to mention in that one. If I go back here, I try to maximize the simplicity of the shapes, especially for example the hair. Try to make as many simple shapes as possible. So everything here is composed of simple shapes, and nothing very complicated. Anybody who is starting with Moho can actually draw this character using only the mouse, tracing over a reference, and mask for the shades, and a lot of point animation. I just wanted to see that to achieve this scene, I have here actually, I'm just going to show you. There are actually two rigs. It's because I made a mistake. So I will just correct it. I'm currently correcting it to have to make it only one rig, and so that it will be easier. But it's only two. It's actually two rigs. It's one rig for the first part, and one rig for the first part, and then it's not moving if I'm just doing like this. Is it moving? Yes, one rig for the first part, and for the second part, it's also a separate rig here. It's a zoom. The camera is moving, so this is the rig. So what I do is that I start by creating the bones and animating them to match with the references, with the pose references that I have. And so here we can see that I'm matching the skeleton first to get like the animation breakdown, and for each pose from the reference, and that's all. And after that, it's just a matter of point animation that you will need. So once you're done matching the poses with using the bones, you can draw your characters. You can draw your characters. Sometimes I don't even draw the character. I start by doing the bone animation, and then it's just like here I'm using reference layers, but not for all, because using reference layers, I really don't recommend that. At first, it took me some time to understand how I could use reference layers and take benefits from using them. And then I tried to practice a lot, and at the end I'm using reference layers, but don't use them before your animation is already finished in terms of points animation, because sometimes you want to have the layers organized in the proper sorting. So you create reference layers and you want it to look good when you make your render. You want everything to look nice and properly positioned, so you create already reference layers. But the problems quickly arrive when you start animating them. So I really don't recommend using reference layers before your animation is finalized. Otherwise, you will just keep on synchronizing and synchronizing them back and updating. And the problem is that if you update them, you have to redo the settings again, so that only the part that you need are being shown. So also don't put too many things in reference layers, otherwise it becomes a pain to animate. Good thing is that Moho has the hide vector tools, which is very helpful, but I don't like to put too many things in reference layers, otherwise it becomes very messy. And I think that's it that's it for this presentation with these rigs. I really hope that it helped you. I feel like I went a bit fast because I wanted to show a maximum of different files. So I hope that you have some questions. I'm sorry if I didn't cover things that were looking important to you, but of course I'm gonna release a tutorial on my channel for that one. And also to thank everyone who joined this webinar. All the files that you have seen here are available for download on GameXanime.net. So you just click this button and you will be able to download all of these files. Just wanted to say sorry at first because the images are not in the files. So I will update this one. I will update the zip file that is provided on the website. So if you download it right now, you won't have the images, the keyframes that were used on all the files. So Moho will prompt that the JPEG files are missing, but it's okay because all the rigs and all the vector layers are inside. So I hope it will help you. And I think we can already move on to the question part, Mario.
Yes, thank you so much, Christian. This has been an amazing webinar. I know there's a lot of content that you wanted to share, and we appreciate the effort, and also a reminder that some of the files I think you mentioned me that will be hosted on your website.
Yes, all the files that I presented today.
So thank you so much again for that, because I know people will like to rewatch this webinar if they miss anything. So for example, here's a question from Roda Villegas
Yes.
saying, what is point animation? How is different from using rig and bones?
I didn't understand the first part of the question. What is?
Point animation, and how is different from
Sorry.
using rigs and bones?
Okay, yeah, very, very good question. Thank you very much, because I didn't spend that much time on point animation. I will just show you here. The thing is that Moho, we mentioned earlier that Moho is not a 3D software. So in order to trick the eye into seeing into the z-axis, we need the point animation, because relying only on bone animation will just lead to like puppet animation. Sorry, I'm just trying to make this one visible, but it's the wrong one. Okay, here. So if I stick to bone animation, the character can only do that. So this is the only thing that the character can do if I stick to bone animation. So we can see that it's actually very limited, especially knowing everything that the character has to do in the scene. You can see that this armor part is not even rigged. So that's where point animation is going to help, because it will actually, that's the word that I use, is that the point animation is going to trick the eye into like thinking that actually this hand is the character hand is into that position compared to the camera, and when actually it's everything is flat. And with bone animation, with a point animation, you can then tweak you can then tweak your character movement, like for example here, into like I'm making him open very quickly. I'm making him open his finger, his front finger, and with a movement that a bone could not achieve properly, because the bones only have X and Y axis. So in order to make a character make several kind of movements, here this is the same layer. So we will observe the layer behavior very quickly. It's this one. Very quickly, I'm just going to hide all the other layers so that we can only see it, and we will actually see the point animation. So here, very quickly here. So it's actually the same layer. So here we can see that this is the position that was achieved thanks to point animation, because remember that point animation cannot, bones animation cannot make this pose exactly with the arm looking that way. Remember, if I try to do this with the bones animation, this is how it will look. So it has nothing to do with what we want. So this is where point animation is very useful. So here the arm is offset, but we don't care because actually it's off screen. And here it's interesting to see that the arm is going like this and finishing like this with and this is thanks to point animation. that we actually make the points move during the animation to reach the detail that we want. Like for example here in that scene, sorry, here. So we have already set the bones, but if there is no point animation, the bones already have the position that we want because the bones follow the character pose. But if ever I remove the point animation here, let me show you how it will look. So this is what we would have like without point animation. This is how it would look like. So that's where point animation is useful to fine tune your animation. I hope that the answer was understandable.
Yes, I know. We know that this is like a bit complex webinar because the way you animate is using bones and points at the same time, also using references, which is like a very professional way to approach to an animation. And
Thank you very
another
much.
question was, how did you get to this kind of animation style?
Practice, because at first when I started Moho, I was like, I didn't understand like, oh, how can I make, because I love, as I mentioned, I love watching anime and I always wanted to make this kind of scenes. And I was wondering how I could do that. And actually, it's with a lot of practice and always looking for solutions to create like a pose from a specific camera angle, and a lot of practice actually. And if I had one piece of advice to give to the community, especially people who are starting using Moho and wants to take the same direction, um, please do not rely on bones only. Bones are useful, are very, very, very useful. You cannot rely on point animation only. Otherwise, you will have to animate every single frame of your animation point by point, and the result might not look that good. So bone helps, especially for such the movements where like there is a rotation, and it's very useful. But uh, earlier I had a discussion, and I was mentioning that bones are actually 20%. Bone animation is 20% of the animation, and the 80% is point animation. So a lot of practice, a lot of patience, and always try to go further and to break your own limits and to explore new ways of reaching your results, and to challenge yourself also.
Thank you for those wise words, Christian. Uh, Here's another question from
Yes.
Christian Black. Actually, it's not a question, but saying that thank you for the webinar. I've been working on making an animated series in an anime style on Moho for some years. Your animation is really impressive. This was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, as long as if there is only one person saying that, I think that we achieved our goal. I achieved my goal today because my goal was to help in understanding the process. So thank you very much for your comment.
Definitely, and you will. This will target so many animators that want to do this kind of animation. Here's another question. These scenes are very impressive. Do you think this is the future of cheaper traditional animation?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure because the future of cheaper traditional animation, it can be, but I'm not sure just because I don't know the future, and also because regarding traditional animation, I've noticed that it's very difficult for, especially for example, if I take the example of studios, it's very difficult for them to, like, how would I say? I would say that Moho is not that famous in with studios who are into traditional animation. Why? It's because they have the habit of animating frame by frame traditionally, and this is kind of new. And actually, I cannot say if it's like the future. I personally hope that it will be, for especially for the Moho community. Um, but the thing is that on my end, uh, I don't I do not compete with traditional animation actually. I think it's something that is more complementary. So whenever I make a complicated scene, it's mostly for the challenge. There are two reasons. The main reason I make a complicated scene is because I want to challenge myself to see if I will make it. And the second reason is because sometimes I have a contract and I'm using only Moho. I'm not doing traditional animation, but the clients want kind of a complicated scene, so I'm left with no choice but doing it on Moho. And but usually I have the chance to work with people who are making also traditional animations, and actually it's more, I will say that it's more like complementary, and in a very positive way. And on my end, I'm not yet trying to compete and also replace traditional animation with like vector rigged animation, because I think that traditional animation still has some advantages compared to the method that I use, because the method that I use still needs to be improved.
Thank you so much for your words. Here's another question from Liliana. She's from Greece. She says, "Do you do the rigging in the beginning along with the storyboard, and you use point animation after the character is fully colored?"
Yes. First is to have, you need to have this at first. This is very important. It's the same as if you are going somewhere without having, it's the same as if you're going out of your house without knowing where you're going, and without having any sign indication sign. So that part is actually like the base. And then second is that part, the bones. I actually make the skeleton at first, and then I'm always on the wrong one here. I prefer to use this one for the beginning, and then start with matching the poses that you have in the reference. So you see, this is the first part. So that's something that I really enjoy. It's that Moho is an animation software, and as soon as you start animating. You're not drawing or modeling, you start animating. And that's what I like. You can start animating right away in a few clicks. And you don't have to start by drawing, okay, frame one, okay, I'm drawing frame two, okay, I'm drawing. And then when you're done with that, you go with the character modeling. So what I usually do is that I start with basic shapes. For example, let me just do something quickly so to understand. I will go with like this and then remove that. So here, for example, for the arm, what you can do is that you can just start with here. You can just start with basic shape like an arm, and this is your arm. And this is your arm, and then you will just start with that. And after, of course, you will have to go for a more detailed shape. And the good thing with Moho is that in one of the latest updates, something was added. Is that if you have a shape like that, and you will animate it for like a few frames like this, and then you add. So here you have like this. It's doing the shape is doing that, and if you add your details after, actually it can the points that you add, if they are part of your initial shape, they follow. You see, they follow actually. So it doesn't mess up because before those points that you added, they were not being animated. So it gives something like that. It gives something like that. If you start with basic shape, you start to animate them a little bit, and then you add some points. It gives something like that when you play, which is like almost discouraging. So, but the point animation is the last part, and this is the part where you really need to take your time. Yes.
Here's another question. This is from
Yes.
Philip Bugs. Thank you so much. This work is awesome. May you
Thank you.
explain your process of shading? Also, if you rig those darker parts, those tonals?
The shading process.
Yes.
Okay, the shading process is actually very easy. It's just a set of simple shapes. Here I agree that it's a bit complicated, complicated shapes, but actually I would not recommend to do that. I would recommend to do something simple like this one here for the ear shade, and always I'm always using masking. So here they are. So the shades in the mask, and the head in another mask. Sorry, the head is a mask, and the shades are masked by the head. And you follow the same process for all of the other shading, and that's basically it. Look at the legs shades. It looks like it looks like water drops. That's very basic shapes actually. Same for the hair. Very basic shapes. Some are a bit more complicated, but it's not. Never try to draw one shape for the whole hair, because for example here the hairs, we know that in this anime the hairs are moving independently from each other, so the shade needs to follow. So it's better to separate each part of the hair shade as well.
And time flew, Christian, but we want to thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you to the community for joining and listening to this presentation.
Yes, we want to thank you all who joined us today, and a reminder that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared on social media and on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Learn more about Moho in our website, mohoanimation.com. Follow us on our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and again, subscribe in our YouTube channel. You will get a notification when this video is available, and also for future videos. You know that we are always sharing the best of the community. And also for more information about Christian, follow him on his socials, Instagram, GameXanime, and GameXanime on Twitter and Instagram, and on his website, GameXanime.net. Christian, you mentioned that you will be hosting the files.
Yes, all the files that were presented during this webinar are available for download on GameXanime.net.
So once again, thank you so much for everything. This has been a really insightful webinar.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you again to the community for joining it.
And we hope to see you again in more webinars. So stay tuned in our socials. See you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.